Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to G-Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert. January 17th, 2021. My drag sled grader. Yeah, I used to drag this behind my ATV until some dirt bags stole it. And now I drag it behind my van. And I'd taken this up to my neighbor's to help grade his road. And he had some really bigger than basketball size rocks that were in the road. And I caught a couple of them, and it tore this whole section off. Broke all the welds, uh, bent this thing up pretty bad. You can see where it hit it right there. It's really nasty. So I got it back here because I also caught that corner on a steel post, and it had bent that piece all the way back. That's the final grader, and it was bent back on a 45-degree angle like that. So I had to straighten it out and then make sure that it broke the welds on there. Had to make sure it was stronger this time, so I did a few different modifications to it. First of all, you can see there's a bolt there and a bolt there. And what I did was I drilled through both pieces and threaded it. I ran a tap down there to thread it. And those are 3/8 inch bolts. And then I shot those in with lock washers. And then I thought to myself while I was welding, well, I'm never going to be taking those off anyway. And if I do, a grinding wheel will take care of it. So I just put a little bead of weld on there just so they won't vibrate loose and come out. And these welds got broken too, so I had to re-weld this here and there on this one. And then I also threw a bolt through at this point, and another one through at this point and this point. This is the one that got bent. You can see it's still a little crinkled, but it'll do its job. It'll grade just fine. But now it's solid. It's not going anywhere. Of course, it's upside down right now, for those of you who don't know. And this flips over, and this is the bottom that does the scraping. These are cutters. These will break things loose like shrubbery branches and small rocks, things like that. They'll get them cracked loose. And the two front ones feed them into here. And the two back ones feed them out of here. Then they hit this one, and this one feeds them to the two sides. And then that last grater blade there scrapes and smooths everything out. Real handy little unit. I built this out of an old treadmill. And this thing weighs a few hundred pounds altogether with all the steel. I can lift up one end at a time, but that's it. You know, I ain't going much more than that. But you can see I got some bends in these cutters too from hitting rocks up there. But some idiot came out and started yelling, hey, well, I don't know if he was yelling because I wasn't down there, but he was saying, hey, you can't use this road. No, the road's been there for 20 freaking years, you idiot. So I don't deal with arguments like that. So I said, well, sort it out, call me when you need it graded. So I came back and I got that fixed. All right, so look how tall I am today. Anyway, yeah, that's what I did for the morning. I worked on that. And I also did laundry while that was happening. You see, I got some clothes still in the dryer. And that dryer works really well. Anyway, I drained down half the water that was in this tank. I left 250 gallons in there because I'm going to use that water to wash out the rest of these. But I'm going to be pumping it through a pump to increase some pressure on it. And I'll be using a pressure washer to pressure wash these tanks down inside and out. It'll be a lot faster. They'll all be all ready to go, and then I'll move them down into place where they're going. So that's my plan, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, another thing I did we'll get this done because I want to get down and discuss growing and harvesting potatoes and sweet potatoes. But we'll go down to the garden in a minute. I cleaned off this barrel. It was becoming a junk storage area. It looked like heck. And I put all this stuff away in the right places where it belongs inside the container. And then I had this shelving board, and it was just the right size to make a nice little countertop right there. Now this stuff is not going to stay there. I had it down here on the floor, and every time I brought my empty plastic and cans over to put in my recycle bins, I would kick it. So I said, well, I've got to get that up out of there. So I just put it up here for now. But those will be leaving this area. They're not going to stay here. This is going to be a good place for setting the laundry basket and coming back in and folding clothes, things like that. So I did that. I put up a towel bar back there, and that gives me a towel right in this area. And then I actually drilled a hole through this board the right size to fit for the drain, because my washing machine does not drain down through the gray water pipes yet. I hadn't done that because I wasn't sure what I was going to end up doing. I think I'm never ever going to have a dryer. I do have propane back here, so I could put a gas dryer converted to propane here, but I don't like using dryers. I think they're a waste of energy. They make your clothes stink. I don't like them. I'd rather hang them outside in the fresh air, and as long as we have fresh air. So anyway, what it does is it drains into this barrel, and then I've got it piped out with a valve down there I can shut off if I want to for the winter time, so I don't have freezing hoses out there. But that runs over to my outhouse, and what I do is I put Rid-X sewer treatment or septic treatment in the bottom of the outhouse hole, and then I flush it with the water from a laundry. And then when I go back in there a couple of days later, about a week later, you notice that the hole is empty again. Those little microbes ate up all of the paper and poop that was down in there. And that saves me from having to keep digging and moving the outhouse. So that was a nice little setup. So I think I'm going to leave that. If in the future I do get rid of the barrel anyway, I have it set up so I can drill through the wall, and then I'll connect into some piping that'll go under my surround deck, and I have to go around the back porch, and then there's the sewer line right there. I left it extended so I can connect into it if I have to. I wanted to, down the line, I wasn't sure if the mass shower was going to stay in that location, but I do like it there. So I think I'm going to keep it there. And I just have to lift up the pad that I stand on the bottom there, and connect a drain into that also. So the water that comes out of those barrels when I take an outdoor shower in the summertime will go down to the gray water pit. So I'm going to keep recapturing water and reusing water as much as I can. I'll have to drain these barrels down now because if I let them sit all year, although they did say there was a slight chance by next weekend that we may get some showers. It hasn't been ruled out, but it's just a slight chance. We'll see what happens with that. That's why I drained all of this down. I drained these two back tanks right down to practically nothing. So those are ready to go, and I'll put some pool chlorine in the base of those to keep any sludge and algae from growing in there. All right, for those of you who are going to ask, and I know you will because you always do, Tomcat's doing fine. He's been out and about and roaming around different places. He's starting to get used to this place. He knows he's got a safe haven in his condo there, but I'll show you how I know he's been out and about. And then we'll head on down to the garden house, and I'll show you what I'm talking about with potatoes. All right. That's how I know right there. He pooped there and scraped the dirt over and buried it like a little, like he does in a litter box. So he's been out in this area already. I know that. And there's another place he's been digging right over there. So I think he might have been going after a critter down there. Also, while we're walking down to the garden house, I did have another critter get into my attic, and again, right over my bed, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, scratch, scratch, scratch up in there. I said, that's it. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. So when I was in town, I went to Tractor Supply, and I talked to them over there, and they showed me this new rodent chaser stuff that's supposed to keep rodents away for up to 30 days and it's supposed to work immediately on when you use it. It's not an aerosol, it's a compressed air can, and I'll show that to you next video. But boy, I put that stuff in there yesterday when I had some time. I opened up the attic openings and I went inside there and I sprayed that around, and it was totally quiet all night and all morning. So that stuff does work. I'll let you know if it does work a second night in a row. All right. So, had some videos I was watching, and people were wondering about things like sweet potatoes. How do you know when sweet potatoes are ready to harvest? Well, sweet potatoes usually grow anywhere from 95 to 120 days, somewhere in that area. You know, you're talking about 4 months. So they can grow for 4 months. Now, the easiest way to tell when they're ready to harvest is the leaves on the ends of the vines will turn yellow. That tells you it's ready. Now, when you see the yellow on there, you're going to figure that 2 to 3 days before you're going to harvest, you want to cut the tops of the vines off. Cut them off completely. And do that 2 to 3 days before the harvest. Don't harvest right away. Give them 2 to 3 days. And what that does, it toughens the skins up a little bit so that they're not super tender. So when you're trying to dig them out of the dirt, you don't damage the skins. And it'll also help bring up the sugars. It'll increase the sugars. Also, when you got to cure them when you're done. So how do you cure them is you're going to have to take them into a humid area. It's 85 degrees Fahrenheit or so with a good 90% humidity. And you're going to cure them in that type of environment for about 4 to 6 days. And that's going to increase the sugar content. It'll also help heal any nicks that are in there from digging them out, or any bruises and stuff like that. And it'll also increase the flesh color of the sweet potato. Don't eat them right away. That's the way you want to do that. And once you cure them, then you want to store them at between 55 and 60 degrees. But don't refrigerate them. If you refrigerate them, the sugars will go back to starch, and you don't want that. They'll be bland tasting and terrible. And you can store those, if you're storing them between 55 and 60 degrees in a slightly humid area, those will last about 6 to 10 months. So you don't have to eat them right away. All right? Now we're going to go into russets. Okay, we got russet potatoes. How do you know when they're ready to harvest? Well, it's about the same thing. The plants will die, though. They'll actually die. You'll see them turn yellow, and then they'll die. And the plant itself will actually tell you when it's time to harvest. So when the plant dies, cut the plants off, but don't dig them right away. Leave them in the soil for a couple of days, and that'll help strengthen the skins on them so that they're not very tender. So when you're pulling them out of the soil, you don't have peels peeling off them, getting damage to them. And you don't wash your potatoes. When you pull them out, they'll have dirt on them. Use a soft bristle brush like a foxtail brush or something like that and just brush the excess dirt off of them and leave them dirty. Don't wash them. When you wash them, they spoil faster. That's why the supermarkets wash potatoes before they put them in bags, because they want your potatoes to spoil faster, so you have to come back and buy more. That's why sometimes you'll get a bag of potatoes home. You only have them for 3 or 4 days. You reach your hand in the bag to grab a potato, and your thumb goes through this soft, mushy, spoiled potato. It just irritates the crap out of me. That's because they washed the potatoes. Don't wash them. Just brush the dirt off. Wash them just before you use them. Also, you want to keep them out of sunlight when you're storing these things, or even when they're growing. If any come up close to the top of the ground, cover them with more soil. You don't want the sun to get to them. If the sun gets to them, they'll turn green. When they turn green, well, if you eat them, you're going to end up with stomach cramps and diarrhea and all kinds of stuff like that. And if you eat enough of them, you're going to end up in the hospital. So green potatoes, forget it. Okay? So you don't want sun to get on them at all. The sun will ruin them. So use any of them then when you're digging them up. If you damage any of those, use those first, because the damages will actually be where they start spoiling first. And so you're going to use those at the beginning. Now you're going to cure them after you dig them up. You shouldn't eat them right away. You want to cure them in a dark place between 45 and 60 degrees for about 2 weeks. That's your best time for potatoes. Okay, that'll harden the skins. That'll heal minor damages that are in the potatoes. And again, don't wash them, but you'll get better potatoes that way. But keep them in a dark area. You don't want sun to get to them. Sunlight, just sit in a dark area of your kitchen counter or something like that, they'll start turning green. And don't eat those green potatoes, okay? Now, I'm going to be cutting this off pretty soon because we're getting up there in time, but I want to tell you one other thing. You see these little plants popping up right there? There's one there. There's one there, and I think there's a couple more in here somewhere. But those are potato plants. And people think that you have to plant a chunk of potato in order to get a potato. You don't. You know, when your potato's sitting in a dark cabinet and it starts sprouting, oh, there's the other one right there. See it? Yeah, right there. Oh, there's another one right there. So when they start sprouting and you see those sprouts coming out of them, those are called eyes. Now, what a lot of people will do will cut the potato and take those eyes and a chunk of potato and plant that, and then get a plant out of that. These plants, these growths that you're seeing in here, are just the eyes. I wanted to eat the potato. I didn't want to throw the potato out. It was still firm. It wasn't soft and mushy, but it had eyes growing out of it. So I used my thumb and I broke the eyes off, and I brought them out here and I stuck them in the ground, planted them about 3/4 of an inch deep in the soil, and watered them. And there they are. They're coming up, and those will grow into whole potatoes. So you can use those just for seeds, and they work great. That's the last tip I have for potatoes. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comment section below. I'll get back to you with those. Any other questions about growing stuff in the garden, just let me know down in the comment section. I'll get back to you on that. On the way out, catnip. My catnip's coming up. Look at the catnip. Doing great. Got plenty of cilantro. Hey, Letty, if you need cilantro, don't go buy any. I got plenty around here. Just ask and you can have some. Okay, the other thing I did was, when I was over at Tractor Supply, they had blueberry bushes. And these are the pink lemonades. They're red blueberries. So I guess they're red berries, not blueberries. But I got the plant in there. And while I was getting the plant ready for planting, I found a little stem in there, which is right here, that had some green leaf growth on it. And it was right beside the main plant. So I stuck it in the same soil it came in from the package it came in, that package right there. And I'm going to try to sprout another blueberry plant, or the pink lemonade blueberries, and I'll plant it right there. So I'll have one on each side of this apricot tree. I'm sorry, plum tree. And then I'll have my 2 grapevines on the side here if they both take. Strawberries have got flowers on them, and some of them have set strawberries on them. Going to be a great year for munching in the garden. The beans are doing great over there, and my lima beans down there in the bottom. Let me show you. You can see in the back corner back there, you can see one that's already popped up out of there, and there's a couple of pieces of dirt in the rest of it that have lifted up, and they're getting ready to pop out. So lima bean plants are coming up. Yeah! Looks like I better water my lettuce. It's getting a little wilty. And the other thing was, this one tomato plant that wasn't doing really well has got a tomato on it. Look at that. Isn't that something? But everything else is doing really well. You take that sucker off of there. And it looks like I need a little bit of water to that plant too. So I'll get these watered now. This is G Bear, thanking you for joining me and signing off.